Shalom Aleichem and a good morning to everybody. Shalom Aleichem everyone in person and people who are listening to the share online. So, Chazda Hashem, another wonderful opportunity, and I don't take it for granted. Day to day, we never know what's going to happen, and to have the ability to turn up and to have that consistency is amamish the deepest akara satov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the material that we're learning is such important material. You know, I was speaking to a mashbiya a couple of days ago, and the mashbiya was speaking about how so many people, and we've used this term before, hashkafically homeless. What does that mean? Is in order to create change, you have to have a vision, you have to have a map, and you have to have a plan. And for so many people, their vision, their map, and their plan of their life is very small. It's very, very small. Just because, on a certain respect, we haven't really spoken about anything bigger. And what we want to do is to understand deeply that Am Yisrael has a vision. We have a vision, we have a vision. We are a nation that's to bring healing to this world. Tiferes Yisrael, Tiferes, etymologically, Tiferes is related to the word refuah. And this is something to think about. We are the nation, we should be the nation of healing. And we have to deal with our own narrative, our own story. But the fact that we are where we are, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu just gives us and gives us and gives us more. And the bracha is that we should be able to hold all the bracha that's given. And there's so many elements of our lives that are not necessarily spoken to. They are silent conversations, typically within. So, for example, people speak today about Gashmius. I was hearing this mashbiya was talking about how there's so much Gashmius, and in America, people are doing crazy things with the amounts of money that they have. And for me, the way I've been mechanech is that a person hasn't been guided how to hold the Gashmius. This is one reason, for example, we started Work Inspired. The Rabbi Yehoshua Work Inspired is a chabura that deals bedafka with parnasa, because there's so many people who are working and they don't understand work from a Torah perspective. It's true to say there are so many people, divrei chizuk, there's panels, and they're giving chizuk, emunah, and bitachon at work, which is very important. Somebody went a couple of days ago to Tel Aviv, and they were from a Yidden speaking about emunah in the workplace and bitachon in the workplace. And this is very, very true. But you know, there's a whole other sugya within Shas that speaks about parnasa. Halach lemaisa, should you work on your career? Is, for example, the avodah of parnasa, is it a mitzvah? Is it a mitzvah to work? Or lemashal, as I showed this mashbiya yesterday, the Yerushalmi in Peah Aleph Aleph, Rabbi Shmuel says, Bacharta b'chaim. Bacharta b'chaim is to do with physical life. Bacharta b'chaim, Kem chayenu b'yoch yameinu, is to do with spiritual life. But Bacharta b'chaim is to do with parnasa. That when Moshe Rabbeinu is leading Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, there was a fear that if people work, they will diminish their connection to the Rabban Shalom. Pumfaket. It's actually mamash. Rabbi Shmuel teaches, and many other sources, hundreds of sources, teaching that when you work, it's a makar. Look at Zvulun. Look at the bracha of Zvulun. Our mindset towards work should be basimcha. And the more that we are basimcha, the more profitable we are at work. And it's a mitzvah. And when we realize the shift that we need to have, it brings us closer to Hashem. This is something very, very important. And there's so many conversations that are half-baked, or they are half, so to speak, conver. The station isn't there, the conver. What do I mean by that? That it's an amazing thing. People are speaking about their munah at work. People are speaking about the vekas at work. But what about the meat and potatoes? What about all of the sugiyas that speak about parnasa and what parnasa is, what money is, and our response to money? And if we had that, we wouldn't be having the problems that we would be having in America, because people will have the das in how to hold the Gashmius. And the nakuda is that as we go further into our timeline, coming to year 6000, we're only going to become more physiologically wealthy. We're going to have more and more Gashmius, more and more gadgets and gizmos. And again, the nakuda is, how do you hold that? So this is the nature of these teachings. When we are coming into this generation, which is the greatest of generations, really, it's such a great generation. It's challenging as well, but it's such a great generation. The opportunities we have. And the question is, how do we hold all of these opportunities? And that's the nakuda that we want to really open up to time and time and time again, my wonderful friends. We want to realize that we have so many opportunities in front of us. Our own worst nightmare at times is who? Ourselves. We are our own worst nightmare. And the question is, can we make a shift that we are our best friends? Can we make a shift where we shift into the Abrahamic vision of caring, sharing, supporting, and encouraging with good, firm boundaries? And as you should know already, the answer is yes. The answer is that we need to become the hero of our stories, not victim. We need to become the hero of our stories. Am Yisrael is the heroic nation. With heroism comes responsibility. I heard someone sent me a clip, Rabbi Aaron Twersky, Shlita, who is a lawyer. He spoke at an event and someone sent me a message and it reminded him of me, which was a big honor. And he says that Am Yisrael, what does he do as a lawyer? What did he do? He constantly broke stereotypes. From a Yidden, Chassidish Yid, he constantly broke stereotypes. When he first began law, they said that he will not succeed. Look at you. And then he became a professor. He won't succeed. And then he became this and he became that. And today he's an older man and he's still giving talks in university, he's still speaking. And he says, what do Jews do? Jews, ultimately, we should break stereotypes. That's what we do, we break stereotypes. And the nakuda of breaking a stereotype, he says, comes with great responsibility as well. So I add in, what is Am Yisrael? Am Yisrael is the nation that breaks stereotypes. We're the nation of vulnerability. We're the nation, we break stereotypes. People look at us and they think us one way. But then actually when you interface, we don't work that way. You have so many different looking Jews who, I was speaking to a friend of mine, a Muslim colleague in London, and he was saying, why does he love the Jews so much? It's because in his family of Muslims, if you're different, typically you end up trying to kill each other. Typically, it's like the Sunnis and the Shiites, and with Christianity as well, they've had their history in Belfast. In London, with the Yidden, with Bnei Israel, we may be very different, but we don't do that. It's like, and he looks at that, he sees something very deep with that.
Amongst the from.
Pardon?
Amongst the from.
No, amongst everybody. We don't go out killing. Literally, physically. We don't go out killing. This nakuda is a nakuda where we hold it together. Sometimes we may want to, we feel like it. But the nakuda pnimi is we're living in amazing generations. We have all the bracha. And we've said time and time again that people ask, when is Moshiach coming? Moshiach's here. Moshiach's waiting. When are we coming? When are we shifting? When are we shifting? And this is as well, the nakuda, as Chazal say, that tzaddikim, they will see a mountain and they will say, how did I manage to climb that mountain where the Rasha will see one little hair? How did that one little hair make me do an Aveira? And we're so close. And what we need to do is make those mental shifts. Our thinking leads us to make those mental shifts and to come in with a mindset to hold everything that we're going through. To become, instead of egocentric, that we're living from the ego, I, it's service, altruism. We are a nation of giving. We are a nation of sharing. And we have to hear this time and time again. Am Yisrael, the vulnerable nation. Am Yisrael, radical responsibility. Am Yisrael, the nation of giving. And we have to constantly hear this message in our mind. We will make these shifts. We will make these shifts. We will move and shift through the noise. We will and we must. And as we said, everything's in front of us. We just have to catch up. As one of my teachers would say, the generation we live in today is that technologically we are so advanced, and it's like putting advanced weaponry in the hands of 3-year-olds. That's the generation we live in. We have so much. We are so sophisticated. And the question is, what do we do with all that sophistication? What do we do with all that wealth? And, somebody asked me in an interview, like, what drives you? What drives me? Suffering hurts. Suffering. I don't like to see people suffering. I really don't. I want to eradicate all suffering. I've said before, I want to be Hashem. I want to be like the tzaddikim, click my fingers and get rid of all suffering. I haven't managed to do that yet. I need to work on myself more. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can help me out here. But the nakuda is, it hurts me to see people hurting. And we have so much in front of us to alleviate suffering, to alleviate pain. Real things, more than ever. And the question is, do we listen? Do we listen? Do we listen to an old story? Do we listen to an old narrative? And in our Derech of Avodah, we have a whole segment showing through Makairos, everything has to be tied back to the trunk of Torah, my friends. If we are Torah Yidden, there has to be Messiah and there has to be Torah. It can't work any other way. Shimush is more important than the words on the page. You have to have the words on the page, but you have to have Shimush as well. And Chasdei Hashem, with the guidance of the tzaddikim, the Biala Rebbe, who I miss so much, I still say Shlita, but the Biala Rebbe and Reb Moshe Shapira and the Pilsner Rav, all of these people, they were so positive. We live in such unbelievable generation. It's scary. It's not poshut. We get that. But Chasdei Hashem, we're rich. We're so rich. We have so much. Chasdei Hashem. And to remind us of that, and to remind us, each and every one of us, we matter. We make a difference. As the Nefesh HaChaim tells us, and as Reb Chaim Pelagi tells us in Model Chol Chai at the beginning, that our thinking makes a difference, our feelings make a difference, what we do with our bodies make a difference. You are powerful. You are an Olam Katan. And to have that chizuk, to live with that chizuk, is something that we need to remind ourselves day in and day out. And plus, all of those souls in Eretz Yisrael, all of those souls that yearn to be in Eretz Yisrael. I was speaking to a Yid yesterday, and he has as a tefillah, I gave him about 7 years ago, one of the first Torahs in Mane Yeshua of Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Chalap, that speaks about Sipiti Yeshua, the yearning, the wanting, and this is a tefillah. Many years later, he's still got the photocopy I gave him. What do you call a photocopy in America? You call it a photocopy?
Yeah, old people call it Xerox.
A Xerox. A photocopy, he has a photocopy in his tefillin, and that's his bracha, the yearning, the wanting to be hungry to grow. It's our bracha, chevra. It's our bracha. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should be excited. We should get ourselves excited about life. We should choose to believe and make real. We should choose to believe and make real whatever we do, using our das, using our bechira. So Be'ezras Hashem, and as we begin after my ranting, Be'ezras Hashem, the Heilige Chassan should have bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha, who sponsored this whole shir, getting close to his wedding. He's getting close to his wedding. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be going or not. In America, in Baltimore. So Be'ezras Hashem, he should have bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha, and really, shetivne bais neman b'Yisrael. And refuah shalema to Revival Ben Toy Befei, and as well a refuah shalema to Ma'ayan Bas Devira Hadassah, and Lilu Nishmas to Reisha Devira Bas Yaakov HaKohen. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, who she's still going through her journey right now as we speak. Shiva finished last week, Thursday. She's going through her journey. And these words, Be'ezras Hashem, these words should uplift her, and her fantastic family should carry on sharing light. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. So change and transitioning. Oh, these introductions are awful, I'm sorry. But changing and transitioning. We've come from our outside, and we are here now. And this nakuda of das tachton chitzoni, the very simple shift that you and I, that we can make, that I've come from somewhere, and I'm now here. I'm now in a different space. I'm now with different people. Maybe I'm not with people, maybe I am. But just to recognize that shift of das tachton chitzoni does unbelievable things to our psychology. So it sounds so silly, but it does fundamental things to our psychology. And as we know in halacha, we're to take note when we come into a Beis HaMedrash. Any room with a mezuzah, as we know from the Rambam, we take note that there's a makom kavua. Das tachton chitzoni is a fundamental within halacha. We have makom kavua, we have sitting in a parent's chair, we have all of these different inyonim with space and how we treat space. And the pnimis of it is that das tachton chitzoni, when I become spatially aware, that changes my level of consciousness. And there's many stories. Three of the Auerbach boys, I remember Rav Shmuel, I heard this from Rav Shmuel Auerbach, Zichron Livracha, how makpid their father was. When he would come into the door of the house, he would stop and he would wipe himself down, he would kiss the mezuzah, he would organize himself, his beard. So he says, I'm coming now into the home and I'm going to see mommy. So I have to make sure I'm coming into a different space. I have to act differently, I have to be different. And how so many people take their internal world, wherever they were a minute ago, to a new space where it shouldn't be. This is a nakuda of sinas chinam. Why sinas chinam? Free hatred. Sinas chinam. Because what happens is that tachlis is, even though this may sound a little odd, so please just bear with me, and I'm not going into it now, but we'll speak about this at another time. Say somebody has a real challenge with somebody. They have a real challenge with somebody. So they see somebody and they have a real fight, a real challenge. Or there's a situation and it's a real challenging situation and they feel hatred or they feel strong, uncomfortable feelings. So yeah, it's true that we should learn to mitigate that 100%. However, what's even worse is when a person had a problem with somebody or a person had a problem in a bank or whatever it may be, and then they take those feelings here, take them there, take them there, take them everywhere. So now what happens is those feelings that belong to an isolated space now become chinam. They're dished out everywhere. It's overflowing everywhere. A translation of sinas chinam, I once passed by the Pilsner Rav, sinas chinam, out of context, hatred. But again, hatred is a very strong word. It's any middah that's a middah of discomfort, any middah that's a horrible middah, out of context. So a person can have an issue here at work, but then they have to bring that problem that they had at work home? No. And again, I'm just pointing out, ultimately a person should be able to mitigate a particular feeling. But for sure, to take time transitioning, there's an external world of moving from space to space, which is change, and then transitioning is what's going on inside of me. And what we would like is to have the availability, the maturity, at least, to leave things in their particular place. Leave it outside. Don't bring work home. Once upon a time, I remember, Kapshutai, now it's very, very different. This nakuda of not bringing work home. Because work is for work and you don't want to take that nakuda of parnasa and bring it home. Home is for something else. So change and transitioning is incredibly important. And when we can make a shift, so when we can make that internal shift, when we can make that shift, that changes how we function. So the practice that we've spoken about now for a number of months, however long these shiurim have been going on. Now I'd like to ask you, have you, outside of the daladamais of the Beis HaMedrash, have you experienced change and transitioning? When we speak about it here, this is where we speak about it, but that's where you live it. We want to take these teachings and live it. Have you for a moment had a experience where you changed and transitioned? Have you had that for a moment? So I've spoken to various people and they've had that. They've made a practice coming to the Beis HaMedrash. Or they've made a practice when they go home to stand by the door for a few minutes. Or change and transitioning. One particular Yid who told me, he said as following, that he's made a practice that he doesn't just go home. He actually spends, he gets home later. He got rishus from his wife, he gets home later, and he sleeps in his car for 20 minutes. He sleeps in his car for 20 minutes and he eats. Why? Because typically when he would get home, he would be so exhausted, he would just sit on his couch. And he would fall asleep on his couch, literally a few minutes, and then he wouldn't eat properly, and it would stir up his whole night. So now what he does, he gets home an hour later, he eats something, he rests in his car, and he gets home with so much energy. And was this something sealed and stone and finalized? No, it's an experiment. And he's done this now for a number of weeks, and it's helped him. Experiment and experience. And we're trying to share, Torah is here to upgrade your life, that you can feel different and different in a better way. That's ultimately what we want. And we can, and we deserve it. We deserve it. It sounds odd to say. People say, how can you say we deserve it? We deserve it. We're living in Eretz Yisrael. We've got so much stress and tension up. We deserve to utilize every tool out there. Utilize every tool out there to improve our lives. And really, Chevra, beautiful friends, when we speak about Deveikus Emunah and Bitachon, they are beautiful tools to help us. So this Nakuda of change and transitioning and Das and relating to the recognition that I'm experiencing my inner stories, I'm relating to my thoughts in the present moment, this is something real for us. But then where we are in the text is that when I build myself, when I recognize within myself who I am, when I become healthier inside, when I realize that I'm constantly relating das tachton pnimi to my inner story, then I can choose to question how I'm relating to others. I can choose to let go. I can make that little shift and I can recognize, look at that. I was really quick to go off in my head about being judgmental about this, that, and the other. Everybody has their story. And as the Ramchal brings in Adir B'Maraim, that whenever a person does anything, it's because their story led them there. Obviously, there's Hashgacha Pratis, and that's a whole sugya. We are held accountable. That's part of the maturity, is we're always held accountable. But the Nakuda is, a person did the best they can. There's a principle. A person does the best they can in the present moment, even if it's wrong. That's the best they could do in the present moment. Avodas Hashem is constantly upgrading our story. If you want to go on the derech of Chabad, Kuntrus Avodah, Kuntrus Atfilah, you're bringing the nefesh into the ruach, we're upgrading. And the more that we upgrade our nefesh, the more that we can make our story beautiful, and we can make proper choices in the present moment, then I'm going to relate differently and interact differently to a situation. Like this Yid. This Yid, he would come home, he would be exhausted, he would be hungry, he would come home and he would start. His kids would start and he would get triggered like that. He would get triggered before even starting. His wife has a good excuse why the house is a mess. She has ADHD. But they have 6 kids running around and they're lively kids, and he has to come home from, I don't know how far it is, but he comes home from New York itself, where all the business is, and they live slightly further out in, I can't remember where they live.
The whole big area.
They live, it's about 45-minute drive from there. I can't remember where they live. I don't remember. I don't want to say I don't remember. But the nakuda is that in that 45 minutes, he doesn't get any more awake. It's traffic. So he sleeps in his car for a little bit, has a sandwich, and everything's changed because he changed his state. He changed his state. You change your state. That's where your bechira lays. Not in the moment. In the moment, it's very difficult to change. But as I think it was Rabbi Yitzchak Grodzinski or it was Rabbi Mordechai Zuckerman, they would say, when everything is good in your life, the Yetzer Sahara is in the yard doing bench press. So in the moment, it's difficult to do, but you can train yourself, you can prepare. So what did this Yid do? He had an uncomfortable conversation with his wife because he knows his wife will need his help. But the fact is, when he gets home, it just makes all the energy worse, is because he's exhausted. So his wife had to be mature as well and said, let's give it a go. Let's give it a couple of months. Change and transitioning. And it's helped tremendously. Comes home with energy, comes home with confidence. Mamash. Comes home with understanding. Because he changed his state. In Sefer Yetzirah, you have the 3 books. You have the 3 books in the beginning of Sefer Yetzirah. In the Perush on Sefer Yetzirah, I explain that these 3 books as well is relating to what we call, you have a state, you have a meichin, you have a state that you are in. The state that you are in is always going to affect your story. If you are in a better state, you will have a better story, typically. You'll have a better story. So the the state you are in, change your state, which is again, change and transitioning. I'm changing place. Is my state changing? So I may change, but am I transitioning inside? And with that transitioning, I change my state, I can change my story. And when I can change my story, I can act differently, hopefully in a better way. So for example, changing your body, bechin of yisoid, changing your body. So you could stand up tall. When a person is down, they look down. When a person it feels good, they stand differently. Stand besimcha, yisoid. And as well, practice feelings. Netzach, practice feelings. I can do this. I can. Hislavus in Musa, in the Olam HaMusa, we call it Hislavus. I can do this. I choose to believe and make real. I can do this. And thinking. Say the words. Allow your mind. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When you're metaken, hod, netzach, and yisod, gratitude, which is changing your thinking, helping yourself to change that state inside, and you can fill yourself up with optimism. I can do this, and you bring up those feelings, and you stand differently. You will act differently. So your state affects your story, and your story affects your behavior. And we are constantly being mitlabesh, clothing our Ein Sof. Neshama, ruach, nefesh. Neshama is we're taking the Ein Sof, it comes into our ruach, which is the beginning of our state and our internal story, and then we act differently, nefesh. And with that, the stronger we are as an individual, then we can start to create a path to Achdus, a path to unity. When I realize that I matter, when I realize my redemption is your redemption, we're all in the same boat together. There's not much different about us, you know. Structurally, we work the same way. Structurally, we have all the same mechanisms. Everyone has a neshama, a ruach, a nefesh. Everyone's relating to their thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations in the present moment. What makes us different, and we spoke about this, I believe, in Journey Begins, what makes us different? The content. The content of our experience, how we bring together the thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. But that's only a titchy % of what makes us different. That's a titchy % what makes us different. The rest is the same. Everybody is the same. Everybody is the same. Oh, individuality. So the way you utilize your content makes you different. But you work, everyone is the same. Oh, people say, I'm very special. Or this one's very... Well, what the personality is in Torah thought, that's the question. What is personality in Torah thought? You're using big words. All I'm sharing right now is that it's a conversation. I'm not disagreeing. But personality, whatever we want to call the personality, if the personality is the content of your experience, it's your memories that you've gone through, that's what makes you different. The rest of you is the same. So actually all of us are 99.9% the same and 1% difference. But the question is, if we're egocentric, that 1% wants to become the 99% because I don't want to be the same as somebody else. I want to be different. It makes me feel good. But Anava and Shiflus gives you the realization, pretty much, I'm the same as you, I function the same as you. The little bit of difference that we experience is my content, where I was born, how I was brought up, how I perceive things. Yes?
About how I perceive things, I was going to ask, yes, the mechanisms are the same, but people do have differences in their access to each mechanism. Now,
correct, 100. But it's the same. But it's the same mechanism. Everybody has the same mechanism. What makes the difference is how awake I am. So am I in a situation where my das is enveloped in my nefesh? It's the same for everybody. So that access is the same. People's consciousness could be enveloped in their ego self. So then they inflate their story. I'm very different. No one understands me. I hear when I sit with people so many times, no one gets me. No one gets me. No one understands me. That's what I hear from a lot of people. And the reality is, maybe the fact is, it's only because of your identification with who you are. So when I look at myself, I'm a Merkava, I'm a Tzelem Elokim, and I'm pretty much the same as everybody else. The only difference, it could be between me and somebody else, is I've been doing this longer. That's the only difference. I've been doing this longer. Because I've been doing this longer, it's more natural. If you were in the same position and we have these conversations and we speak things out, then in a number of years' time, you as well are going to hold yourself as Kupshuta, as a Tzelem Elokim, and a Merkava, and that's going to be your default setting. And then somebody who's new to it is going to be in the same position that you were in 20 years ago, like I am 20 years ahead. It's not brain science. Rabbi Singh used to say this very often. Everybody's exactly the same, but some people have been at it longer.
What's the point of being the same? What difference is it? What is it? So I'm the same. So now what does that mean that I know that other people are the same as me?
Because the reason why it's liberating is because in context, when you know you're the same as everyone else, what makes you different becomes that much more meaningful. My content, my avodas Hashem, the way I relate to something, the emotionalization of a particular mitzvah, the way I understand it, that makes things now very unique. That makes it be that the light that I'm shining is truly unique. I'm the same as everyone else. I'm a Merkava. Functionally, Or is coming down into the neshama. That Or comes down into the neshama, then awakens, so to speak, my ruach, and that ruach then is shining down into my nefesh. What makes me different? The way I clothe that light. The way I clothe that light. So I actually come to realize, wow, the way I clothe that light is 1,000,000,000% unique. The way I clothe that light, no one else in existence since the beginning of time until the end of time has clothed mitlabesh, the Or Ein Sof, in this particular way. That's awesome. Wow. So I actually have a far healthier sense of self. I can have a far healthier sense of self. I'm hoping we may finish this today or next week.
You're saying that you can't appreciate the importance of individuality unless you can recognize
I believe so.
You are essentially the same as everyone else, and that gives you an understanding of
how I work. Yes. So what we start to see, what we start to experience is when I realize mechanistically we all function the same way, but the content of my experience is completely different, I actually can appreciate what I have to give more. But more than that, when I become the mechanic over my own machinery, life becomes a lot more liberated. I can choose to be happier. I can choose to change my state. When I realize, look at that. I'm always clothing Or Ein Sof. I'm always that's it. That's the nature of life. Energy's coming down and I'm clothing energy. Everything that you look around you is clothed energy. And where did that clothed energy come from? Someone's thinking. When I realize, the mechanic, so we gave this analogy before. Say, for example, you have a mechanic who knows to fix a car. So if you don't know how to fix a car, you may get a bit nervous when the car starts doing its noises and this and that and the other, or it doesn't start. It's like, oh, gewalt. But then when you go to the mechanic and the mechanic understands the machinery, the mechanic, this is it, done, or this. They fix it. They're not scared. They're not worried. When you understand your own machinery, when you understand what it is to be a Tzelem Elokim, when you understand the architecture of the soul, the neshama, ruach, and nefesh, you experience naturally more bitachon, you experience naturally more emunah, more deveikus, you experience naturally a sense of pride, a clarity.
Can I clarify something? It sounds like what you're saying is everyone's the same. We're not the same. Mechanically, we're the same.
Mechanically, we are the same.
The way the machine works is we all work the same.
Yes.
Our experiences, because of our upbringing.
Exactly. Content is different.
We're born with is different.
Yes.
Yet the machine works the same.
Correct. So the content is different.
The content is different, but the
Correct.
machine works the same.
Correct. The machine works the same way, which again liberates us.
Is it all people, all races, or is it...
So again, it's machlokes Ramban, and it's a machlokes Rambam and the Mekubalim. We hold the derech that I received from my teachers is everybody is built exactly the same way. Every human is built the same way, and even on a certain respect, there are shitot that say everything has a neshama, ruach, nefesh, everything. But the question is, what do we have access to? But the nakuda, this is a very, very important diuk. I once asked the Biala Rebbe, I think it was Rav Moshe Shapiro, maybe it was Rav Moshe Shapiro, I once asked, what difference does it make when we go around claiming, we have neshama and the Gentiles don't have a soul, it's a funny thing. Because I don't know what it means for me to have a soul. Like, what does it mean for me to have a neshama? When I've been in exile for such a long time, it's nice words. I'm very pragmatic. So according to the Rambam, everybody has the same structure. If you look in Kabbalah, I don't think it's actually a stira. I think if you look in Kabbalah, especially if you look in the Ramchal, in the beginning of the Ilan, everything's created the same way. Everything. The Masorah that we have, there's a Simsum, there's a Kav, there's Ratzon, Simsum, Kav, Sfirot, Igulim, and Yashar, everything. So this little pen was created the same way as the whole universe. Olam Gadol, Olam Katan. But the question is what we have access to, and then the question of that, what difference does it make when I don't even know what that means to have access to something? But what we are saying is that people are primarily mechanically the same. Your content of your upbringing, your nefesh is different. And the beauty is when you learn to become a mechanic over your own machinery, you become liberated. You wield a wonderful power to live well, choice, bechira, to become the hero of your story. Ultimately, that's what we want. Yes?
First of all, I just want to frame, I'm not challenging because I don't believe what the Rabbi was saying. I'm coming from the perspective of the quote-unquote exception, just to understand the limits of the concept. People with brain damage, people who are neurodiverse, something in the mechanism is different, no?
Someone with brain damage still has a neshama, ruach, and nefesh. Everyone has a still ruach.
But their ability...
So that's access. So that's exactly what we're saying. So somebody with brain damage, somebody who's sick, they still have a neshama, ruach, and nefesh. Their access may be different. It's the same way what we were just saying just now. What does it mean that, I have a neshama? What does that actually mean? Qualitatively and quantitatively, is that meant to be something that just feels good? I have a neshama and the dog doesn't. What does that mean? Is it words or is it real? The mahalach that we're following, it's something real. But you've got the guf. So a person who unfortunately has experienced brain damage, they still have a neshama, ruach, and nefesh.
Absolutely.
But there's a hiccup in their...
Their nefesh is capable of...
It will be different.
Doing is different.
Correct. But the structure is always the same.
Okay, but the mechanism that the nefesh has to function by
Will be different. Correct.
The
The mechanism of... Correct. But it's still all the same. It's still there, but a little bit off.
Somebody,
Same with...
let's say, for instance, has disinhibition or has frontal...
Same idea.
They have the same...
It's the same...
I don't like the word ability, but they don't have the same ability to
Correct.
enter DOS.
Correct.
They've lost access.
But it's still... They may have lost access, but it's still fundamentally there. It's like dyslexia. It's like ADHD, ADD. It's all there.
Yeah.
Isn't the proof of this like in Har Sinai where everyone was healed?
Yes.
So
Yes.
clearly, even to the extent that everything, there's the illusion that everything is so different with people. But no, Hashem,
Yep.
Hashem easily shows us that no, everything is capable of being completely mainstreamed based on my ratzon. It's just
Yes.
a matter of things being aligned.
Correct.
What I'm struggling with is that if a person with, let's say, neurodiversity or traumatic brain injury will learn this mechanism, I don't think they get as much help from it as I do.
Correct. But that doesn't take away the fact that somebody who has some sort of learning disability or whatever, the system is always still the same. That's the beauty and the truth of Torah. The patterns and systems don't change. The content changes. And what we want is to understand is that through being Isaac in Avodah, if you want, you can come round to the men's section. If you want, you can come round to the men's section. So what starts to happen is when you realize everybody functions the same way, then we all can be on the same page. Like, this is an akudah of achdus, this is an akudah of tefillah. What breaks us apart? Why can't somebody experience, why does a person have a challenge to experience achdus? One second, okay. Why does somebody have a challenge to experience achdus? Because their story is different. That's it. That is it. Everything else is the same. Their story is different. My story, which is in the nefesh, is different than your story. Yes?
But also your interactions with that person affect the perception of that.
Correct.
Different story.
It's
Patterns in your interaction.
correct, 100%. But you have the ability in all your interactions, if you're in a state of das, if you're in a state of centering, your ability to interact is going to be completely different when you are functioning from the primary place of das, of consciousness. When I'm relating to you, holding and suspending judgment, which the Baal Shem Tov calls in Keser Shem Tov Hachna and Havdalah, I can listen to you mechanistically. I can listen to your story, and I can hear your story, and you can hear my story. We will now relate differently to each other.
No judgment. It takes away the din.
We will now, it will mitigate the din. We will now relate differently to each other because the mechanism of how we work as a human being mechanistically is all the same. All the same. We have a little differentiation of content. That's it. And that content manifests pragmatically as my story. What I believe about my story. So, tikkun hamidais, to change my midais, this is what we said. You change your state, you could then change your story. You change your story, you change your behavior. So do I, in my nefesh, which works on hergesh. It works on hergesh and it works on regilus. So in a situation, I feel something because I got used to a certain something repetitively, whatever it may be. A person had bad incidences with a dog, so now they're scared of a dog. So if they change their state and they can change their story, they can then melt away that fear and they can relate and interact with the dog differently than before. But that's the same with Achdus. That's the same. What we're trying to understand is as a nation, as a species, we are all the same. We are all channeling Ein Sof. That our Ein Sof, God's divine light, God's healing light comes down into our neshama, into our ruach, and then we're clothing it in words. We're clothing it in a story. We're clothing that in a narrative. But that's the only part of us that's different. But that part that makes us seem different, our stories that make us seem different, can take over the motherboard. So by the tzaddikim, they were obedient and they were all, so to speak, the same. They understood, ich bin a tzelem Elokim, and I'm a merkava, I'm constantly clothing Hashem's light in me and through me. And what makes me different is my nefesh. I'm going to upgrade my nefesh. That's called Avodas Hashem. That's called Tikkun Hamidais. And from that, within that, I realize everyone's on the same plate. This is what tefillah is meant to be. Tefillah, as we have said, tefillah, when we daven, we come to the Beis HaMedrash and we're davening. Tefillah is meant to be our national mission statement. That the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah and thereafter put in with Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, Hashem's beliefs, Hashem's values, Hashem's wants into a siddur. And every single time I read the siddur together with everyone else, we're reading the same words day in and day out. It's our national mission statement. It puts us all on the same page because we are primarily, mechanistically all the same. What makes us different is our stories. Change your stories, upgrade your stories, changes everything.
Makes healing simple.
It makes healing a lot more simpler. Yes.
We just heal masses in
Yeah,
the same,
yeah.
more or less the same way.
Yeah. But we have to know the mechanism, the background, the mechanism, the architecture of the soul in order to meet the front end in a healthy way. So, yes, sir.
So just to connect a couple of dots, is it fair to say that by the door of Flagga, it used to be Hashem wanted us to be able to see this much easier in the idea that we all spoke the same language. So we unfortunately took that and perverted it, and therefore there had to be an additional breakdown to create a little bit more of an illusion that we are different. But it used to be even easier to see this naturally.
Correct.
And then as a follow-up to that, is it fair to say that now that pattern has been established over these thousands of years, right up until, Bezras Hashem today, Mashiach's coming, or revealing himself, or we'll be Zochah to see Mashiach, that we've been taking the nuance, and I guess through Amalek, through the Arab Rab, we've been taking any of these nuances, and instead of recognizing them as being empowering, they've been taking them and saying, no, really, we're all different. And based on that difference, this person doesn't understand. This person can
Yes.
really be the enemy.
Yes.
Right? And basically, it's just taking the nuance and perverting it, and trying to literally make that something to fight, even go to war about.
Correct. So again, mechanistically, we are all the same. Ramchal, Ilan, everything is created the same way. Everything always. And mechanistically, there's a part of us called the nefesh, and that nefesh is our story. And if the nefesh is leading, it creates an illusion that we are ever so different. Ever so different. But the part of us that's meant to be our own chidush, the part of us that brings out the story, the unique story that's never ever been shared in the world before, is you. But when I understand that all of us are a Merkava, and when we understand that all of us mechanistically work the same way, and what makes us different is my story, and I can leverage my story to bring more light into the world through Tikkun Hamidos, whoa, unbelievable, it changes everything. Changes everything. With humility, with das, with wisdom. So now with that, let's go into our text. So as we said, the nation affecting the whole. And we mentioned last week, based on the Netzach Yisrael, based on Rav Kook, that we as a nation should affect the whole. And this now Nakuda is this Nakuda, what we're going to share now, it needs conversation. It needs conversation. We really need to spend time speaking about this, and we're not going to, but we need to. So, the whole being as an organism. As we go further, we should realize this concept goes beyond Klal Yisrael. The universe can be expected to follow the blueprint laid out in human form, as taught from the Zohar Parshas Lech Lecha. So again, there's an Olam Katan and there's an Olam Gadol. Everything is within everything else. Everything is within everything else. The human embryo transitions from a cluster of cells into a self-sustaining organism when enough stem cells, raw cells that are not yet specialized, differentiate. Differentiation is then cells migrating to their intended positions and change their form to reflect the distinct function within the body. This is again a very important nakuda, that cells don't know what they're going to be until they get there. It's an anomaly of what a cell is. And still today we don't know that. Still today, it's pelagic. When enough cells have undergone this process, the result is an expansive network through which signals can be transmitted between the brain and body. Now, if you remember last week, we spoke about this nakuda, how there's two shifts in the expression of power. One element of power typically is the pyramid system. Pyramid system is there's a king, there's a ruler, there's a para, and then that power from the few get distributed through this pyramid system till the ones at the bottom of the pyramid don't have that much. The Chiddush of Torah is that we have what we call a system of networking. That means that, and we've shared this, that there's a bris, and through a bris, instead of a pyramid system of power, there's a bris. Hashem Yisbarach keeps Torah, as we know, West Tefillin, Gemara Brachos. The king comes from within the people. The Sanhedrin, no Sanhedrin can argue with another Sanhedrin. We've got throughout Shas, throughout Halacha, what we call there's a vertical power and there's horizontal power, a vertical society and a horizontal society. And Am Yisrael, we are to be a group of people that network with each other. We distribute power. And the core in conversation is Torah. And this is something very important. Probably only today, through technology, and maybe this is part of the Gula process, it's only today we can really live in a world of networking more than ever. Now we have to make that shift from the pyramid form of power and the hierarchy to the networking form of power. But this is actually how Bria works. This shows the truth of Torah. Those that understand. But the beauty of Torah, once you go into the world of the sciences, once you go into all of these worlds, what the world is coming out with today in the back end formulation of how the world works. Front end, you see in Shas and Paiskim, you see in these deeper ideas that Tachlis, wow. The Tiv'i aspect of Torah is absolutely profound. Only once the system is functioning as a whole can a human interact with the world and can consciously and can maybe consciousness conscious and can consciousness emerge by a byproduct far greater than the sum of the parts. And again, this is found in Michtav Meliau and other places as well. So what happens, again, what we're saying is you, little old you, affect the whole. And the whole is affecting you. And the more each member of Am Yisrael and really each member of the species can become more conscious, we are deliberately and positively impacting the whole. And that should be a Musa Heskel for you. That should be a Musa Heskel. When you smile with that little more voraciousness. When you're excited, be that little bit more excited, because as the Pilsner Rav would say, that there's times where you have to have emunah for somebody else. Double emunah, he would say. Double emunah. You have to have emunah for yourself, and sometimes you have to share out your emunah. But we are capable of doing that. In a healthy way, we are capable of doing that.
Is it fair to say that the tzaddikim, people who've been doing this, many decades, they're measured enough, they can actually recognize and measure the difference they're contributing effectively almost in real time?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody knows anything. I once asked one of the tzaddikim, how do you know that your bracha is pile? And he says, I don't know. I care. He said something very interesting. All I know is the depth of my caring and my love. The more that I love, and the more that I care, and the more that I'm prepared to sacrifice, it seems to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu just listens to me. So tzaddikim themselves don't necessarily know.
So ultimately, it's still, even for them, it's still a function of emunah b'tachon.
Correct.
In this sense.
Yeah. And I heard that from not just one tzaddik, I heard it from a few different tzaddikim.
No, it makes sense. Just the Havamin, I think, was also fair, that the further and further along you are, theoretically, you can actually sense the difference, because you've been just bedafted, this has been your world. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Just like these cells, each individual human must develop themselves to the optimal to be optimally adapted to their own unique purpose, which is the process of experiencing one's own personal geula. Each individual may make their unique contribution to the overall system by networking and sharing, continuing the cycle of learning and transmitting. When enough people share their personal geulot, our world will graduate to experience what we call the meta-geula, an emergent universal consciousness, born of the network of individuals listening to the baskoil through their neshamas. So again, what we're saying here is that the more we could center ourselves and become a baldas, again, mechanistically, my nefesh can quieten down. We call this menuchas ha-nefesh. I can develop a yishuv hadas. And as we said, rabbis machshavos belevish, but the Eitzah of Hashem is always there, tamid. I can listen to Hashem. I can hear Hashem, I can hear that voice. As we said, Rabbi Nachman brings it in Likutei Maharan, Kuf Nun Vav, 156, that when we're doing Hispaidudus and we hear a voice, that's Ruach HaKodesh. And why is Ruach HaKodesh important? Because Ruach HaKodesh helps us make better choices in the moment. Another word of sharing this term Ruach HaKodesh can be insight. But the insight qualitatively is coming from a different place. The insight's not coming from the lower ego, lustful self. The insight's coming from somewhere else. It just drops in. And we could experience it. We could experience it as we are sitting with somebody or we have an epiphany. But what we do see pragmatically, When I'm trying to figure something out, typically I could think and it won't happen. But the minute I let go, the minute I surrender, I can go for a walk, go to have a shower, bang, then that which I was looking for drops in. And we experience as that. We say, that thought just dropped in from somewhere. Well, where? We call that a buzzkill. There's a qualitative difference between something that's coming from higher self to something that's coming from lower self. But the more you experience your higher self, your neshama, your thinking, typically where does it lead? It leads to the midos that we want so desperately: love, respect, the dignity. That's where typically it leads to. Sharing, having the ability to overcome trials and tribulations in a healthier way. We're more vulnerable, opens up to vulnerability because we sense that. We sense that so deeply. And if we find the right group of people to feel safe with, and we can be vulnerable, you have all of these internal wants and needs that need to be expressed, done in a healthy way, is very, very powerful. So again, neshama, ruach, and nefesh, choosing to believe and make real. Ich bin a merkava, I'm a merkava, and I'm clothing Hashem's light in my special, unique way through mechanisms that I can own. I can become the mechanic over my own machinery. And with good midos, humility, caring, sharing, supporting, and encouraging with good, healthy boundaries, that's going to allow me to function differently in a better world. It's going to allow, and then one person at a time, the more people, because it's catchy. This is the beautiful nakuda, it's catchy. Because it's tivi, it's real. And we can work our way out of the exile of isolation and loneliness and come to a healthy connection with others. Connection with the Bara Olam, with the nation, with the nations. Becoming full of love, full of hope, full of gratitude, full of resilience. This can allow widespread Ruach HaKodesh and prophecy to become available to the generation, strengthening our partnership with Hashem to improve the world. Baruch Hashem, as this already is unfolding before our eyes, the era of Meta Geula will be characterized by a global peace, prosperity, and purpose, built on a population of genuinely self-actualized individuals. So, Tachlis, we have Tanakh, we have all the Marmakomas to show this. The Bala Leshem writes in Sefer Klalim Hagdama Aleph, behold, the process of Tikkun unfolds in 3 stages. Seder his kalalus, order of inclusion. Sod his kalalus, the internal dimension of inclusion. And Sod ha'achdus, inner dimension of unity. The first Tikkun, Seder Kalalus, is the principle based upon how all the various categories and all the details within all the various categories in all of creation are always connected, and there is interdependence. All the elements with creation rely upon one another. So the Nakuda is what we're saying here is the first level is when we realize we can reach humility and we can realize that I need to work on myself, but then we need each other in a healthy way. We work with each other in a healthy way. All the various elements are needed. This is very much based on Rav Dessler as well. He brings this in several places. And we need to rely on each other. All the various elements are needed. Everything is helped by one another and rectified by one another until one element is deeply connected and rooted in the other, eventually becoming a single structure, a Shiur Koma. As all the wise heart agree, as all the wise of heart agree, all of creation with all its many details is really a singular partzuf, a singular man. May it be soon. So what we're sharing here is this process of individuation. We're born into this world and we take our first breath and come into this world out of the womb. That process of individuation starts, and my whole individuality and individuation is to come back to connect to the whole. To come back and connect to the whole. And when we're doing it properly, we feel so good. We feel fulfilled. When I'm working on myself and I'm giving and I'm working on my tikkun hamidais, I'm healing and I'm finding ways to give, to collaborate and contribute. So I'm becoming, we are adding to the becoming of this new meta-system, that's going to emerge, the Geula, where really this whole world becomes a nervous system, becomes a brain, becomes something new, something different. And we're all involved in that. We're all involved in that, and we all have these glorious opportunities. So Be'ezras Hashem, you can read through this a few times. And the reason why we've taken time really to give Hagdamas and to go through this is because this is something real. These are words on pages. Maisa Bereshis, they're words on pages. The Maisa Merkava is when we could talk about it and own it and live it. And live better, live better. We deserve to live well. We deserve to live well. We've been in exile for such a long time. We mamash deserve to live well. We're hanging on, and Chazd Hashem, we're doing very, very, very well. And kol hakavod to each and every one of us, that we're interested in such odd ideas. But we're doing it. And may we constantly grow and support and care, share, and encourage each other. Be'ezras Hashem. Next week we'll go through the poem, and we're going to start looking through a supplementary text to The Journey Begins and to Awakening. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. So as usual, Chevra, take a moment online. What did you hear today? What benefited you? What benefited you to your journey? What did you hear that can help you in life? How can you better your life? How can you better the lives of others? And everybody in person, we're going to break up and we're going to do some sharing. Be'ezras Hashem. Kol tov, kol Yeshuas.